Hi there and welcome to the March 24th episode of Canadian Profits TV. My name's Dave Dubeau, publisher of Canadian Profits, and welcome to spring. It's officially here. I don't know if it's really spring like where you're at, but it's starting to feel that way here in beautiful Kamloops, BC. So I'm going to get a little bit of spring skiing in because it's spring break as well for my kids at their school. So next week we're actually heading off to the slopes in central northern British Columbia at a place called Powder King. Hopefully we'll get some video and you'll see some clips of that in the next couple of weeks as well. Hopefully not me wiping out too much. So what's going on with this episode of Canadian Profits TV? Quite a bit. For our business breakthroughs, we're going to be talking about, again, another lesson learned from Rich Dad, which is the power of symbols. For our real estate tip, again, another lesson learned from good old Ken McElroy and Ross McAllister, MC Companies down in Arizona. We're going to be looking at the power of controls and systems for maximizing your profits. And for our Mindset Minute, again, another lesson talking about the power of relationships. And to wrap things up, we're going to have a special guest, a visit from one of my favorite people. Well, actually, he's not a person, but a friend from childhood, Kermit the Frog. So stay tuned for that. All right, so for our business breakthrough, another lesson I picked up at the Rich Dad offices in Scottsdale a few weeks ago, where we went for our Diamond Getaway. And you're going to hear more about Diamond, the Diamond level of membership and some of the new things that we're doing with that in the future, so keep your eye out for that. But one of the things we picked up from the visit to the Rich Dad offices was the power of symbols. So again, if you go into their offices, the first thing you're going to see, and we'll hopefully show some video clips of this as well, is a wall full of the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book, translated in, I believe it was 64 different languages there. I think it's been translated in well over 80 languages across the world now, but they've got, I think, 64 copies of the book in 64 different languages smack right there. That's the first thing that you see. Then as you go into the offices, you see symbols all over the place. You see pictures of Robert Kiyosaki himself or himself with famous people. There's motivational quotes in their boardroom. There's all sorts of pictures all over the place. There's actually the first blueprint of the cash flow game that Robert Kiyosaki created. So he's got his blueprint of that hand drawn out, framed up there. They've got motivational quotes all over the place, special banners that they put together, artwork that has to do with money and wealth and real estate and business. It's just everywhere. So that was very, very interesting to see how much emphasis they put on symbols and just surrounding themselves with these positive symbols all day long. So how can you put that into play in your own office, in your own workspace if you don't have an office yourself? Get as many symbols as you can about what you're going after. We talked about creating vision boards before. This is kind of another way of doing that, another way of reminding yourself of what you want to keep your mind on. So that's our business breakthrough for this week. All right, for our real estate tip this week, another lesson learned from Ken McElroy and MC Companies. Again, they own and control somewhere between 8,000 and 10,000 rental units in the United States. And that's about maximizing revenue. So again, with buildings that big, their typical apartment building units are anywhere from 150 to 300 units per building. They have to be they are very, very tight on their controls and their systems. They have systems for absolutely everything. They've got controls for everything. They track and measure everything you can imagine. So what I want to talk to you about right now is something they've done recently, or relatively recently, a system they've implemented for determining how much they're going to charge for rents. And actually, the system they use right now is based on the same system that hotels use for determining how much they're going to be charging for rooms. So you know, if you go and you book a hotel room online, the price can change quite a bit from one day to another, actually from 1 hour to another. So they've implemented a very similar system for their rentals. So they look at, and I don't know exactly all the parameters, but this system basically looks at the entire apartment building, how many rentals are available, how many are coming available, what kind of rental units they are, studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, etc. Then it kind of does a comparison with what else is out there in the market right now. Again, I don't know exactly how it does this, but then it spits out a number for that particular unit. However, that number can change from day to day. So what they do is they're maximizing their revenues because this projects out what their income and expenses are going to be in the future. It just analyzes so much data. But it also gives the person who's looking at renting kind of a little extra nudge to jump on board now because the price could go up tomorrow if they wait. So that's something that they've implemented, one of the many, many systems that they've got in place that just is little teeny weeny things, but then if you extrapolate them over multiple units, make tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, or in their case, millions of dollars of difference per year on their bottom line. So in our own real estate businesses, we can't go to that degree. However, we have to look at the different controls and how we can track and measure our numbers more effectively so that we're on top of them. A lot of us are just a little too loosey-goosey about that. So one of the lessons learned from Ken McElroy and MC companies is the controls, the systems, just getting everything as systematized as you possibly can so it runs the same way time after time. That's your real estate tip this week. All right, so for today's Mindset Minute, I want to talk about our good friend Ken McElroy again. And instead of watching me talk about it, while I'm talking, we'll look at some video clips from the recent diamond getaway we did in Scottsdale. And you'll see some of the clips of Ken's offices and the lovely dinner that we went out to, courtesy of Ken McElroy that night as well. So one of the things I picked up indirectly from Ken is about the power of relationships. And I think Ken McElroy and his partner Ross McAllister are definitely masters at that. So you got to remember, yes, they have a huge business now with, hundreds of employees and thousands of rental units, but Ken definitely didn't start out that way. He started off very humbly as a property manager himself. So he actually managed apartment buildings for their owners and started investing with a little, I believe it was a 2-bedroom condominium for himself, and that's how he started investing back in the day. And all things considered, it wasn't all that long ago either. So I think one of his big strengths is the power of creating amazing relationships. So in addition to Darren Weeks and the Fast Track Group and getting investors that way, Ken's also a master at attracting investor funds from celebrities, wealthy people, folks that control hedge funds and investment funds and things like that. And yes, the business plan is very, very important. It has to be very sound, but at the end of the day, it's all about relationships. And Ken is a master at chatting with people, making people feel comfortable, making them feel at home, being generous, and he just does a fantastic job of creating and cultivating relationships. So that's something I took away, again, was just really reinforced, was how important relationships are in any level of success, whether you're in business or real estate or just personally. So again, focus on how can you make your relationships better. All right, thanks again for watching this week's episode of Canadian Profits TV. Just a quick reminder, we love your feedback, we love your comments, so go ahead, scroll down to the bottom, plunk in comments there. And I also want to encourage you to submit any questions that you might have for me about either business, real estate investing, or mindset type stuff. And if we address your question on the show, you'll get a free prize, a free gift from me, which I'm sure you'll really enjoy. Just submit your question to marketing@canadianprofits.ca, or you can click on the little tab below there and it'll automatically do that for you. Put in the subject line, Canadian Profits TV question. That way my helper Derek can see exactly what it is. And we'll be looking at people's questions in the next few weeks. And I want to invite you to check out the replay of the recent webinar that I did with Shane Morgan called Golden Rule Marketing. You can find out all about that and watch the replay at CanadianProfitsMastermind.com. If you're interested in real estate investing and becoming a professional real estate investor the right way, check that out at CanadianProfitsTraining.com. And for next week's episode, look out for business breakthroughs. We're going to be talking about switching from selling to attracting. That's something I definitely like to do. So switching from selling yourself or your products or services to attracting people who are interested in your products and services or what you're selling. For a real estate minute, we're going to be talking about a lesson learned from Robert Kiyosaki's new Rich Dad, a gentleman who's 90 years old that we had the pleasure of talking with when we were down in Scottsdale a few weeks ago. We're going to be sharing with you a big breakthrough that he shared about raising money for real estate deals. And for a mindset minute, I'm going to be talking about something I learned originally from Brian Tracy, good Canadian boy himself, which is called zero-based thinking. Thanks again, you guys. Have a great week. Talk to you next week.
Hi-ho, Kermit the Frog here. Have you heard about the Canadian Profits membership programs yet? If you aren't a member, you should be. It's the best place for Canadianized information, education, and inspiration for business owners and real estate investors. If I were an amphibian, I'd join up myself, but I spend lots of time in the water, playing the banjo and singing. Don't be like Oscar the Grouch. Go ahead and take a test drive of the program and get a free book by clicking on one of the banners to the right of the video. This is Kermit the Frog signing off.